This is Hustle and Pro with Kelly Walker. Join Kelly as she talks sports with players, coaches, organizers, and entrepreneurs from Pee Wee League to Pro. Now here's your host, Kelly Walker.
Welcome to Hustle and Pro. So one of my favorite things about this podcast is talking to pro athletes to learn about their path. I like to rewind and think of how they were and what they were up to as kids. So now I'm flipping the script today, and we're getting into the heads and hearts of some youth athletes. So welcome to our youngest guests so far, Reganne Morris, Chris Bush, and Reese Walker. Okay, so let's do a couple quick hits to sort of get to know each of you a little bit better. So Reganne, who's your favorite athlete of all time?
I would probably say my favorite athlete is Reganne Rapinoe from the women's national team. She just has she works really hard and does a lot for that team.
Yeah. What about you, Chris?
Mine's definitely Jamie Benn, because I grew up loving hockey, and just watching him on the ice is pretty fun.
Reese, who's your favorite athlete?
My favorite athlete is Gabby Douglas because she's very inspirational.
We're going to talk about the different sports that you play, but if you can pick one of your favorite sports to play yourself, what is it? Chris?
Probably football.
Okay.
Soccer for sure.
Soccer for Reganne.
Lacrosse.
Lacrosse for Reese. Okay, so just so you guys know, on this show, I talk a lot about multi-sport athletes, and I think it's important, super important for athletes as they're growing up to play different sports and not just focus on one. So I want you guys to tell me what sports each of you have played kind of over the years and what you're playing now. Reganne, you want to go first?
Okay, so I've played a lot of things. I've done basketball, volleyball, soccer. I've done a lot of different things, but as of right now, soccer is definitely my main sport. And then for the school, I play basketball and volleyball. And then last year I did track and I did some cross country too.
Okay. What about you, Chris?
I also grew up playing a lot of sports: football, hockey, baseball, basketball. And right now I'm definitely focused in on football. And the football season just ended. So I'm now playing basketball at the moment.
Okay. Reese?
I've played soccer and volleyball and basketball, and for school I play lacrosse out of school, but I played volleyball for school and basketball for school, and I've been running cross country, and yeah.
So I should have also said that you guys are currently in 8th grade. So you're middle school kiddos at Pearson Middle School. So that's, you guys keep saying school sports and then outside of school. So I want to talk about that a little bit. Do all of you, I know Reese and Reganne play non-school sports too. And I know you have in the past, Chris, like on different clubs and out of school sports. So I want to know what Reganne specifically, because you're a competitive soccer player, right? So
Yes.
What's the biggest differences that you notice between your school sport and your club sport?
I would just say with the club sport, it's a lot of people who have, especially at this age, realize that that's the sport that they really want to pursue and that's the sport that they really want to continue playing. And so it's more competitive and it's more concentrated and super focused on that one sport compared to a bunch of different sports. And as to when you're at school, you can play almost all sports and without knowing exactly what you want to do for sure in the future. And so I would say that's probably the biggest difference between them.
So you can kind of try out. I feel like school sports, you're trying out that sport, maybe for the first time in a sport like track or something. What is your favorite thing, Chris, about playing sports for school?
My favorite thing, when I played out of school, I played with a bunch of kids who I didn't know to start off with. But when you play in school, you grow up with those people. You see them every single day throughout the school year. So when you finally get to go together and play on a team, it's pretty cool to see all the chemistry that you might have that you don't realize, just how fun it is to play with your friends.
Okay, I want to talk about goals. So who here sets personal goals?
I do.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Give me some examples. What are your goals that you're setting or working towards right now?
Well, one of my biggest goals is I want to go and I want to play soccer at a D1 college school, and I want to be able to play in college and possibly when I get older play for something a little bit higher than college, possibly a national team or something. But I would say my biggest goal as of right now is to play in college at a good school so I can continue playing soccer.
Awesome.
I'd say not only sports-wise, but like I have goals outside of sports. I have like goals for my grades because I know that schools look at that. And but one of my biggest goals is to play high school in lacrosse. Even though it won't be through a high school, it'll still be an out-of-school setting where you can play with girls all throughout Frisco, and so it'll be fun.
You live in my household, so I know that your goal for this year, when we made family, like New Year's resolutions and goals, one of your big ones was to make teams for your school. So all those teams we talked about, just to try out, right, and see if you can you can get on them.
Yep.
That's a good goal. Chris, do you have any goals right now?
Right now, so probably my biggest goal is to make this year's football team coming up. You know, I went from having a spot practically locked up in middle school to where now we're joining with another school, Pioneer. And so we're going to have to compete with all of them, and no spots guaranteed. The coaches don't care about how long you played, how good you were. It's all a new, fresh start. And so right now my goal is really to start on the next year's football team.
Okay, that's good. That kind of answers my next question, which is about why do you play sports? So it's probably, maybe your answer is different for each of those types of sports. Maybe if it's just kind of a for fun school sport versus your competitive sport that you prefer and like to play the most. But just kind of curious, when you stop and think about it, like what is your reasoning for enjoying sports? Is it social? Is it just the competition, you love the sport so much? Is it, like you said, playing in college?
Personally for me, I would rather play outside sports because through an organization like I play in for lacrosse, I get to talk to people at all different schools. It'll change next year, but I get to talk to people from all different schools, and we always talk about school sports and tests and quizzes and people, and it's just more like the people that you play with is more broad. Everyone's just so much different than the people that you see every single day at school.
Right. What about you, Reganne?
So I truly believe that soccer is my passion. I love playing it, and I love my friends, and I love hanging out with them on the field. But I love soccer. I love just playing it, and I personally think that's just that's my passion in life, is to play soccer. And so I feel like that's the main reason I play.
So saying that then, so would you play on any team that's best for you personally, regardless of if your best friends are on it, right?
For sure. I'm fortunate enough that a bunch of my friends that I played with when I was younger have also had a huge passion for soccer, and I get to continue to play with them. But if it did come down to it, of course I would want to pursue my passion rather than play with my friends. I could still see my friends and still hang out with them without playing on the same team of them. So.
Yeah. What about you, Chris? When it boils down to it for football for you and for trying to play for Reedy next year, why do you do that?
I play sports, and especially football, because when you're on the football field, nothing else that's going on in your life outside the football field matters, you know? It's just almost like a place to get away from your grades, from your parents, from your school. It's a nice place to go out there. You have fun, you compete, and that's truly why I play.
The competition part of it. So I'm curious. I ask that because I'm curious, because sometimes parents don't always know what your answer is, the kids, and we might guess that your answer was going to be different. And some kids might have the goal of wanting to play in college, or the parents think that that's what their goal is, but the kids don't even care about that. Reganne, you've already talked about that. Do you guys talk with your families about those kinds of things, like the likelihood of you even getting on the high school team, and then the likelihood of you playing beyond that? Is that something you guys talk about with your parents?
Yes.
For sure. I have a sister who is going to college. She's graduating early, so she's leaving for college in January to go play college soccer. So I feel like that is a big discussion we have in our family.
Yeah, I bet.
Just because it's kind of already in our family. And so I feel like that is something we discuss a lot. We discuss But it's not, we always discuss, it's not easy to do stuff like that. You're going to have to put in the work, and you're going to have to, you got to really make sure that is your passion, because it takes a lot of time, and it definitely takes a lot of hard work.
Do you guys talk about that, Chris?
We do. You know, like, my parents haven't ever forced me to do anything and all, and so it was, like, sports related, and so, like, it was kind of my decision to play, and so we do talk about it and how, like, I can get better, how I can go start next year for the freshman team, how, you know, I could keep putting in the work and all. So, and I have 2 little brothers also who are also playing sports and all and trying to get better, and so it's definitely one of the big topics in our house.
So as you guys are moving into high school, I talked a lot on this show to seniors in high school, and then of course pro athletes and older successful athletes. They always say, you know, they played everything, quote unquote, through middle school, but then they felt the need to focus on something in high school. Especially around here, it's hard to make a high school team. So usually you do pick a thing and try to go make that one team. Do you guys do y'all feel that happening at this time in your lives right now?
Yes, for sure. I think right now, like this week especially, we have had to lately been picking our high school courses. And like me personally, I had to really think about if I wanted to play volleyball in high school or lacrosse or what I really wanted to do, because it is so hard to make high school volleyball because of the amount of girls that do play volleyball, not only in middle school but in high
We
school.
have good high school here in Frisco, or volleyball here in Frisco,
Yeah,
right?
so the team that we're joining in high school,
The other middle school that you're combining with?
yeah, they are very talented, and so it is going to be very good competition. We're going to have a very good high school team, but I decided to skip on volleyball.
Skip on volleyball and go for more lacrosse focus. So Reganne, I'm guessing that you're going to really shift from any sport you can play in middle school to focus on just soccer starting next year, or what?
So yeah, the level that I play in soccer, they actually don't allow us to play soccer for our high school or any other sport. It's very difficult to. So at that point, I have already made this decision, but it's definitely a big decision that, I'm not going to get to go play all these big high school sports with all my school friends because I'm focusing on soccer and on my club soccer specifically. So I had to make that decision personally, but it was definitely a hard decision, but I definitely, like I said, soccer's my passion, and that's definitely what I want to pursue.
So Chris, what about you? Do you see yourself about to make a decision to kind of peel away some of the other sports and just focus on one now?
I definitely, that decision is definitely, it's definitely been in the back of my mind and all. And I've kind of already said to myself, I'm going to do all the sports and all, because I feel like sports are like how I escape the world and all. But I'm definitely going to start focusing on football and doing other sports for just fun, not to really compete, just have fun, go out with friends.
Will you try out for more than one school sport?
Yes.
In ninth grade?
Yes.
Like basketball? Or?
Yeah, I'll do basketball, track,
Okay.
and maybe cross country.
Do a lot. Do it all. That's awesome. Okay, one last thing. I want to talk about just sort of in general, life skills. As parents, we want you guys to be athletes, to learn some life skills. The big ones for me is confidence and respect and failure, learning how to fail. I know that's a tough one, but it's a big one for me because that's part of life. So can each of you think of any examples of any of these that you've kind of already seen yourself learning through sports? Maybe it's, losing and keeping your cool and learning how to keep your head up and move on. Or maybe it's understanding that now you're seeing that coaches and officials are kind of worthy of getting your best behavior and respect. What are you guys feeling yourselves learning as young athletes?
Well, I know that definitely our middle school volleyball team taught me a lot, especially 8th grade year. It was really different. There was different coaches, and it was a whole new ball game. Playing volleyball in middle school, especially for girls, it is very hard. You have to really learn how to work with a team, and you have to learn the personality of everybody. You've got to be different to everybody. Some people you can say things to, and some people you can't, and you've got to be really careful about what you say on the court and off. Our coaches had a long talk with us one day about how you've got to take everything from what happens in the halls and what happens to the classroom with your friends, and you've got to drop it at the gym door, and you got to go in there and you got to give it your 100%, because
That's good.
you got to just leave it all out there.
Yeah.
And I definitely think losing is hard in middle school because it can get pretty intense, and people get really fired up. So.
Yeah, and that's probably tricky because if you're a competitive athlete, you're used to winning if you are on a good club team or something, right? Versus when maybe your school team doesn't have that many well-rounded players, so you lose a lot. So that's probably something you might be feeling.
For sure, I agree with Reese, because when that talk in volleyball, I thought it was very important for us to have, because we were having some struggles with our team being a real team, and when you're in middle school, it's not just your friends making the team, it's people from all different personalities, and you really have to learn how to work with people of all those different personalities. And like you said earlier, failure and losing, growing up playing sports, you develop this sense of competitiveness, and when you're in middle school, there's some people who haven't played before and haven't done a lot of sports and may not be as competitive as you and may not always think that winning is a super big thing, and that can be frustrating. But you really do have to learn how to work with different people and learn how to lose as a team, and also on the flip side, win as a team.
Yeah, especially with volleyball, I think is one of the hardest things to work as a team, because with football it's like one big team. There's more people. There's more likely your friends are going to be on your team. But with volleyball, it's very split. There's only like 10 to 11 girls on each team, and the likelihood of you being with all your best friends is very unlikely. And so you've got like one person from each friend group all put together.
What about you, Chris? What have you taken away so far from being in sports?
Definitely the teamwork part, because when you like I was saying, you finally get to play with your school friends and all, and you gotta work as a team. Our coaches would always say when you play football, you're in a brotherhood. You're relying on the person next to you to do their job, because if they don't do their job, they can get hurt. You can get hurt. So definitely working as a team.
Trusting.
Trust, and learning how to lose together. When you lose, some kids, they'll stop and they'll want to just quit automatically, but you got to learn how to pick your heads up, go back, watch film, say, what can we do to get better? What can we do to go out and win?
Yeah, I love it. Well, guys, thank you. Y'all are awesome. I'm excited to see what happens as you guys move into high school and keep up with your various sports careers. So thanks for jumping in the studio with me today.
Yes, thank you so much for having us.
And however you're listening to this podcast, hit subscribe so that you can get notifications on future episodes of Hustle and Pro.